This video is based on the Great Train Robbery, where a group of 15 members stole £2.6 million from a UK train in just 15 minutes. But out of the 15 members, only 14 were identified by the mastermind investigating the case. However, one member remained a mystery, even 50 years later. Today, in this video, we'll explore the Great Train Robbery, one of the most famous robbery in UK history. But before we begin, if you're new to this channel, please like and subscribe. Now, let's dive into the story. There was a train in England called the Royal Mail Train. The question is, how did a mail train, which carried postal department items, become the target of a robbery? The G-Gang had planned this heist after an insider revealed that on August 7, 1963, the train would be carrying about 128 boxes, including large amounts of money headed to London due to a cash shortage in the market and banks. Suddenly, a train carrying postal department documents in 128 boxes, filled with £2.6 million, became the target of a daring robbery. But how did the robbers find out about this? The gang, led by a thief named Gordon Goody, spent days carefully plotting the heist. Goody, who had a history of petty theft and ran his own gang with 3 close associates, decided it was time for a bigger score. They had learned that money was often transported on this train, but the exact timing was a mystery. To overcome this, they began devising their plan. They knew they needed more people, especially experts, to pull off such a complex operation. First, they recruited 3 more individuals who had experience in train robberies, bringing the group to 6 or 7 members. But for this job, they needed specialists, like a skilled train driver and a technician who could manipulate the railway signals. They eventually found an old train driver, whom they lured in, and a technician who could change the signal from green to red. But for this job, they needed specialists, like a skilled train driver and a technician who could manipulate the railway signals. They eventually found an old train driver, whom they lured in, and a technician who could change the signal from green to red. As the plan developed, their team grew to 15 members, each playing a crucial role. All the preparations were set, but they still needed someone who could provide precise information about the money and the train's schedule. The gang was ready to act as soon as they got the crucial information. They had been practicing repeatedly, but there was still one unknown person who hadn't shown up. Finally, on August 7, 1963, that mysterious insider contacted the leader of the 15-member gang, Gordon Goody, and revealed vital details. The insider informed Goody that a train bound for London would depart at 7 p.m. and arrive 12 hours later at 7 a.m. This train would be carrying numerous postal department items, including 12 boxes, 2 of which contained essential postal documents that needed to be delivered quickly. To expedite the process, postal employees would be on board the moving train, sorting mail as they traveled. Around 72 postal workers would be stationed in 2 separate carriages, working to organize letters and packages. The train consisted of 10 additional carriages, but it was the second coach from the back that held 128 boxes containing £2.6 million. The money was carefully concealed to avoid drawing attention. After sharing this vital information, the insider left, and the plan was set in motion. The train departed at 7 a.m., while the gang, under Goody's leadership, positioned themselves near a small village. They had received word that their meticulous 2-month plan was close to success, but the final piece, gaining access to the money, was still uncertain. They were shocked when the train left at 7 p.m., but they had thoroughly researched every possible route and track. After discovering that the train was traveling from Glasgow to London, they carefully planned where the robbery would take place. The gang acquired 2 Range Rover cars and an old military truck, selecting a location where both the railway track and vehicles could meet. They first targeted a railway signal near Cheddington, arriving late at night. After letting the other trains pass, they waited for the mail train, their target. The timing was perfect. Moments before the train arrived, they carried out their final task. With help from their technician, they tampered with the railway signal, turning it from green to red. Although it was a green signal, they needed to trick the driver into stopping the train. 15 men stood ready. Some rushed the engine, restrained the driver, and warned him to keep the train moving slowly. threatening violence if he didn't cooperate. Meanwhile, others headed to the carriage holding the money. Armed with nothing but iron bars, they forced their way inside. As expected, the coach was locked, but they had practiced breaking locks beforehand. Inside, the postal employees had fallen asleep, exhausted from sorting mail. It was around 3 a.m. The gang swiftly broke the lock with their tools. 2 men stayed in the engine, instructing the driver to keep moving slowly, while the rest moved to the rear of the train where the money was stored. Once they reached the spot where the Range Rovers and truck were parked, they halted the train. Forming a chain, they passed box after box of money from the train into the waiting vehicles. In just 15 minutes, they had transferred all 128 boxes, worth 2.6 million pounds, into their vehicles. Afterwards, they instructed the driver to continue on his way, and as the train pulled away, the gang drove off with the loot. Once the driver was far enough, he sounded the alarm. Before morning, news of the largest robbery in England's history had spread to the police and the public. The train made an unscheduled stop at a station before reaching London, prompting a flurry of inquiries and chaos. Newspapers quickly splashed headlines about the audacious heist. In response, both local police and Scotland Yard were mobilized, along with the anti-robbery unit and various experts, as this was a case involving an enormous sum of money and the most significant theft in the nation's history. Scotland Yard and the Anti-Robbery Task Force launched an investigation, but it took nearly a week to find the first lead. Fingerprints found at a farmhouse 20 miles from the heist site led to the arrest of several suspects. By January 1964, 11 members of the gang were sentenced to 30 years in prison, a severe punishment for the time. The remaining 3 were captured by 1968. Even after intense interrogations, the insider's identity remained a mystery. Despite the police's efforts, only 10% of the stolen money was ever recovered. The whereabouts of the remaining 90% remains unknown to this day. As for the 30-year sentences handed down to those convicted, most of the 19 individuals involved have now been released. Out of the original 16 robbers, 12 have passed away, as they were all around 80 years old at the time. Only 3 remain alive today, including one of the masterminds of the robbery, who is also in his 80s. Among these 3, one would often become agitated whenever the topic of the train robbery was mentioned. While there is a general consensus that an insider, likely a railway employee, played a crucial role in orchestrating the heist, his identity remains unknown. Who could this mysterious insider be? One day, a filmmaker approached Gordon Goody to create a documentary about the Great Train Robbery, the largest heist in British history. Goody agreed to share his story, but only under the condition that the name of the insider who helped orchestrate the robbery be kept secret. For 51 years, this insider's identity remained unknown, as he had promised to keep it confidential. However, during the interview, Goody revealed that the insider was a railway employee who had died. He explained that he had remained silent for so long out of respect for their agreement, but with the insider's passing, he felt free to disclose his name. Unfortunately, the authorities could no longer take action since the insider had died many years prior. Despite extensive investigations, the fate of the stolen money remains a mystery. The Great Train Robbery is still remembered in British history as one of the most significant thefts, with the harshest penalties imposed on those involved. This marks the end of this remarkable story.